lest we forget. Good morning, staff and students. My name is Pastor Gotzi, and I am one of the 2024 Wodonga Senior Secondary College School Captains, along with Christine Yu. Today I will be your Master of Ceremonies as we come together for the combined Wodonga Middle Youth College and Wodonga Senior Secondary College ANZAC Ceremony. Before I begin, I'd like to ask all mobile phones are turned off and all earpieces are taken out. Please ensure that any caps or beanies are removed as well. This ceremony is a solemn occasion where we are given the opportunity to reflect on and respect the sacrifices of those who have served, suffered, and died in war. Given the nature of this ceremony, please do not applaud or speak at any stage. I would first like to invite Monique Martin and Bella Farrelly to do the acknowledgement of country.
I would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respects to the people both past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to the other Aboriginal Islanders who are present.
I'd like to acknowledge the fact that this meeting is held in Wodonga land, the land on which we are learning, living and dreaming from today, our continuing connection to land, water and community. I'd also like to acknowledge the strength, resilience and capacity of Aboriginal people.
Thank you, Bella and Monique. Towards the end of our ceremony, we will have the laying of the wreath, followed by the Ode of Remembrance and the last post, played by Ross Draper on the bugle. This historic piece was played in army camps to announce the end of the day, a time when soldiers should be resting. The last post is played today for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. It means that they have done their duty and are now at rest. After the last post, there will be a minute of silence. This is a time to think about those who have served in Australia's armed forces, those who continue to serve, and about those who have lost their lives in the defence of our nation. I would like to welcome Evie, Corey, Steph, Shyama, and Bella, who will now do a commemorative speech.
Commemoration provides recognition, respect, and acknowledgement. They are a solemn occasion as we remember those that have perished and acknowledge all that have gone before us. ANZAC Day is a time for all Australians to recognise the more than 1.5 million servicemen and women who have served our country in all conflicts, wars, peacekeeping operations. It's a time to remember the over 103,000 Australians who sacrificed their lives in our country's name. In 1916, the acting Prime Minister, George Pearce, officially named 25th April as ANZAC Day. The first anniversary of the landing was observed in Australia, New Zealand and England. More than 2,000 Australians marched through central London. Australian troops in Britain, Egypt and France attended local services to commemorate the landing of Gallipoli also.
Since its origins in 1916, ANZAC Day has continued to be an important day for Australians. By the 1920s, ANZAC Day ceremonies were held throughout Australia and all states had designated ANZAC Day as a public holiday. What does the word ANZAC mean? It means Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. The ANZAC values are courage, egalitarianism, which is belief in human equality, especially political, social and economic, equality, endurance and mateship.
ANZAC Day is commemorated on the day our troops stormed ANZAC Cove. We often think of just that Gallipoli landing, where of the 16,000 soldiers that landed, 2,000 died the first day, but it also acknowledges all past and present wars and peacekeeping missions. In 1914, Australia had a population of less than 5 million people. By the end of the war, 416,809 people had enlisted to serve in the armed forces. Of those, 330,000 served overseas, more than 60,000 were killed, and 156,000 were wounded, gassed, or taken prisoner. The Western Front was the most important battleground of World War I. This stretch of land ran 700 kilometres through France and Belgium. Australians fought in all major campaigns on the Western Front, and they suffered the highest casualty rates of British Dominion armies. Of the 295,000 Australians who fought on the Western Front, 46,000 died, 130,000 were wounded, and 18,000 have no known graves. Life in the trenches was difficult. Australians suffered horrendous physical and mental wounds, the long-term effects of gas attacks, and had uncomfortable living conditions where survival from day to day could not be guaranteed. At the very short Battle of Fromelles in July 1916, Australia suffered over 5,500 casualties in one night.
Indigenous diggers. 1,000 Indigenous Australians are thought to have served in the AIF on Gallipoli and the Western Front. When war broke out, first Australians were prevented from enlisting by the Defence Act 1903. These conditions were amended in 1917. With the 1917 Military Order 202, this made it easier for Indigenous people to join up, but their enlistment was still determined by individual recruitment officers. Records suggest Indigenous servicemen received equal treatment during the war. Many were recognised for their bravery, but despite their sacrifice and service, Indigenous soldiers returned to a country that did not recognise them as citizens. Not only were they denied war pensions or soldier settlement grants, but they were also subject to discriminatory laws and regulations that dictated all parts of their lives. Today we celebrate their contribution and acknowledge the role Indigenous diggers play in all war, conflict and peace-keeping missions.
ANZAC Day is a time also acknowledge the work that our present-day servicemen and women do as a community. We have several large army bases right at our doorstep. Bandiana, Wordsworth, and Latchford Barracks are filled with courage men and women. You may be sitting next to a Defence Family student right now. Have you ever stopped to consider that a day in the life of a Defence student may look a little different to your own? Transition is often a regular part of their life, and getting to know you may be easy for some or a little more difficult to others. As a school community, we want to acknowledge you for the sacrifice not only for your parents make, but also for your own, living as a Defence student.
Thank you for that speech. We now welcome our special guest speaker, Warrant Officer Nicole Davies.
Good morning. Firstly, thank you for having me come and talk to you to commemorate ANZAC Day. Another year, another ANZAC Day. Another time to pause and reflect on why we and thousands like us are gathered at similar services throughout Australia and New Zealand. The number of veterans dwindle year by year, but their memory of their courage, their determination, and their friendship will last forever. It is rekindled around this time every year by those who are left behind. It is passed on to sons, daughters, and grandchildren. The first ANZACs gathered in their thousands to answer the call. In August 1914, when Great Britain declared war on Germany, men, young men, some no more than boys, rushed to join the long queues at army barracks around Australia. Some believed they had no choice but to protect England from invasion. Some thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to travel, while others just didn't want to miss out on something exciting. Don't worry, they told their wives, mothers and girlfriends. It'll be over by Christmas. The following year, on the morning of April 25th, these ANZACs prepared to launch themselves against the Turks at Gallipoli. Can you imagine the fear, the nervousness, the excitement, the doubt these young Australians felt? By the end of the first day, 2,000 ANZACs lay dead. A week later, 6,500 ANZACs had been killed or wounded. But the courage, the determination, and their mateship kept them together. They had won the first of many battles, but at a terrible cost. From Gallipoli through the Western Front to the Middle East, their ANZAC spirit saw them through some horrific conditions. When the Great War ended in November 1918, over 61,000 ANZACs would never see Australia's shores again. But their spirit came home. The spirit of ANZAC. Throughout the years, many more young Australians would answer the call. But of course, it's not just Gallipoli we remember on this day, nor is it even the First World War. This day is set aside for us to collectively give thanks to all those men and women who have put their lives at risk and in many cases made the ultimate sacrifice. We also acknowledge the losses and sacrifices of their families. We in Australia have never had our communities demolished or our freedom removed. To some, war has always been a long way off, not our concern. The world is a much smaller place these days. Within a day's travel you could be in Sydney or on the other side of the world. We do live in a lucky country, but while we strive for peace on earth, we must be ready to answer the call in time of need. The thousands of young ANZACs who fought for freedom and justice throughout the world did so that generations to come could live without the horrors of war, that they could enjoy their freedom and all the kind of life that ANZACs wish for. So don't just think of today as another holiday. Remember, it is a very special day when all ANZACs should say, all Australians should say thank you to all those men and women who have fought and died to allow you to have a choice in a country that is free and keep the ANZAC spirit alive. Before I finish up, I understand that the Albury-Wodonga area is a very military-centric location, and there are a significant number of you that have serving and or ex-serving family members, or for some of you, another type of connection to the military community. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to you all who have supported a family member or otherwise. It is your sacrifices, your resilience, and your unwavering support that is the backbone of our service. The sacrifices made by family members or members of the community are often unseen but deeply felt. Today we remember and honour not just soldiers who served, but also the families who stood strongly behind them, sharing their burdens and their triumphs. Thank you.
Thank you, Warrant Officer Davies. Can all students now please stand up for the laying of the wreaths? The wreath laying will be completed by Caitlin, Bethany, Malachi, Bella, Piper, Ava, and Elsa. Kiara Gassain will now do the Ode of Remembrance.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them.
Thank you, Kiara. Please remain silent and standing as our next special guest, Ross Draper, plays the last post, followed by a minute of silence and then the rouse. Thank you. Thank you. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath our radiant southern cross we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas with boundless plains to share, with courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
In closing, we would like to thank Monique Martin and Bella Farrelly for the acknowledgement of country, Warrant Officer Davis for being our guest Army representative speaker, and Ross Draper for playing the bugle today. ANZAC Day is a day to reflect, remember and honour not only the fallen but those that have fought to defend our country in the past and present. To recognise the peacekeeping efforts that have taken place throughout time and the Defence Force's commitment to the nation and community through tough times such as natural disasters and COVID. To all our Defence students from Wodonga Middle Years and Wodonga Senior Secondary College, we would like to acknowledge you and your families. Life as a Defence student is not always easy, but we would like you to know that we are here for you. Thank you to everyone for showing respect during the service today. We would like to ask that Wodonga Senior and Huon please remain where you are. Feltimba campus, please stay with the teachers and leave through the back gate towards the end of the oval. Once Feltimba have exited, we will have Wodonga Senior students to go back to class and Huon to exit also. Thank you again, and lest we forget.